Chapter 3: Sadness, the Healing Power of Letting Go. Welcome once again to Soft Voice Psychology. As always, let's begin slowly. Feel your breath as it enters, cool and soft, and notice it leaving, warm and gentle. With every inhale, your mind opens a little more. With every exhale, the body softens and releases. In our first episode, we explored emotions as a whole, what they are and how they shape the human experience. In our second, we walked into the fiery landscape of anger, learning that anger is not the enemy, but a messenger. And now in this chapter, we walk into a quieter, softer, but also heavier place: sadness. Sadness is a companion we often resist. It comes to us like rain clouds that we hope will pass quickly. But sadness is not random. It arrives with a purpose. It asks us to pause, to reflect, to let go, and to heal. Tonight or today, whenever you are listening, I want to invite you to sit with sadness gently, without fear, to see not only its weight but also its wisdom. What is sadness? Psychologists define sadness as an emotional state associated with loss, disappointment, or helplessness. But definitions cannot fully capture what sadness feels like. The heaviness in the chest, the slump of the shoulders, the quiet in the voice. Sadness is not weakness. Sadness is a signal. It tells us that something important to us has changed or been lost. A relationship, a dream, a moment in time that will never return. Unlike anger, which rises hot and pushes us outward, sadness draws us inward. Anger shouts, sadness whispers. Anger tightens, sadness loosens. Anger fuels action, sadness invites reflection. And often in that stillness lies the space for growth. The evolutionary purpose of sadness. Why would humans feel sadness at all? Isn't it unpleasant, even harmful? Evolutionary psychology suggests sadness serves several functions. 1. Conservation of energy. When wounded physically or emotionally, sadness slows us down, keeps us from wasting energy, and allows us to heal. 2. Social bonding. Tears and visible expressions of sadness signal vulnerability, drawing support from others. Sadness invites empathy. 3. Reflection and learning. Sadness halts our rush, forcing us to reconsider what matters most. Think of grief after losing a loved one. The world feels heavier, slower. That slowing down is painful, but it protects us from rushing back into life too soon, before we have adjusted to the loss. Sadness is not an error. It is the body's way of saying, pause, honor the loss, allow healing. Cultural views of sadness. Sadness lives within us as individuals. But grief, the sadness that follows loss, is not carried alone. Across history and cultures, human beings have created rituals, ceremonies, and traditions to shape grief into something collective, something honored, something held. Mourning traditions are humanity's way of saying, this sadness matters, and we will not carry it alone. Let us gently walk through the landscapes of global mourning, seeing how cultures across the world give form and dignity to sorrow. Western traditions, black silence and solemnity. In many Western cultures, mourning once followed strict conventions. In Victorian England, widows wore black for years, sometimes even for life. Veils, muted clothing, restriction of social activities, all signaled to the community, I am grieving. The black attire persists in many places today, a mark of respect at funerals. Modern Western funerals are often solemn, quiet, sober affairs. Silence, prayer, and reflection are emphasized. Yet changes are emerging. Increasingly, some choose celebrations of life in bright colors, with music, storytelling, even laughter, ways to transform grief into remembrance and gratitude. Even here, rituals are evolving, showing that grief is not fixed, but adapts with cultural needs. Mexico, Dia de los Muertos. In Mexico and parts of Latin America, Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead, embodies a different perspective. Boundaries between life and death soften. Families gather in cemeteries, decorate graves with marigolds, candles, favorite foods of the departed. Altars ofrendas are built at home with photographs and offerings. Instead of silence, there is music, food, conversation, stories. Children play, families share. Here, grief is not simply absence, but a continuation. The dead are remembered as if visiting, joining the living for a night. Sadness is softened with community. Ancestors are celebrated rather than erased. Japan, Aben and impermanence. In Japan, Buddhist traditions shape mourning. During Aben, spirits of ancestors are believed to return. Lanterns are lit to guide them home, then floated on rivers or the sea to send them back. Japanese culture also embraces the concept of mono no aware, the gentle sadness of things. It reflects the beauty of impermanence. Cherry blossoms bloom and fall, just as lives begin and fade. Mourning thus includes both respect and aesthetic appreciation. Sadness is accepted as part of beauty itself, not a flaw to be erased. Jewish tradition, Shiva. In Judaism, the mourning period after death is structured. The most immediate is Shiva, 7 days where loved ones gather in the home of the grieving family. Mirrors are covered, symbolic of turning attention inward. The family sits on low stools, a sign of humility and grief. Community members visit, bringing food and support. Prayers are recited. Shiva is followed by further stages, Shlasham, the first 30 days, and a year of mourning for parents. Each phase creates a rhythm, gradually moving the mourner from intense sorrow to reintegration with life. The wisdom here, grief is not rushed. It is honored step by step with time and community. Islamic tradition, Janaza and remembrance. In Islam, funeral prayers, Salat al-Janaza, are offered promptly, often within 24 hours of death. Burial is performed quickly, emphasizing humility and equality. The body is wrapped in a simple shroud without display, reminding all that before God, all are the same. Mourning periods vary, but often include 40 days of remembrance, when verses from the Quran are recited. Widows traditionally observe Ida, a 4-month and 10-day mourning period. Grief is framed within faith. Life is temporary. Death is a return to God. The community supports the bereaved through visits, prayers, and presence. Hindu traditions, fire and the cycle of rebirth. In Hindu culture, funerals involve cremation, the release of the soul from the body into the cycle of reincarnation. The eldest son, or a close male relative, often lights the funeral pyre. Ashes may be scattered in a sacred river, such as the Ganges, symbolizing purification and return to the eternal flow of life. Mourning rituals include chanting, offerings, and a 13-day period where family members observe restrictions, focusing on prayer and remembrance. The process is not only about sorrow, but about guiding the soul in its journey of rebirth. Here, sadness is interwoven with cosmic cycles. Loss is not an end, but a transformation. African traditions, communal mourning. Across many African cultures, mourning is deeply communal. For example, in Ghana, funerals are vibrant events, often large, with singing, drumming, dancing alongside crying. They reflect both sorrow and celebration, honoring not only the death but also the life lived. In South Africa, practices include all-night vigils, storytelling, and sometimes ritual cleansing of the home. What unites many African traditions is the refusal to grieve alone. The entire community participates, carrying sadness together, turning mourning into collective resilience. Mourning and music. Across cultures, music is a vessel for grief. Western requiems like Mozart's or Verdi carry sadness through choirs and orchestras. In Ireland, laments and keening, crying songs have been performed for centuries. In Middle Eastern traditions, poetry and chant echo grief aloud. In Africa and the Caribbean, drumming and song turn mourning into rhythm, keeping memory alive. Music allows sadness to flow in waves, to rise, to fall, to be experienced together across generations. Universal patterns. Though diverse, mourning rituals share common patterns. Acknowledgement. Loss is made visible through clothing, gatherings, ceremony. Expression. Tears, music, poetry, silence, ways to let grief be felt. Community. Grief is shared, not born in isolation. Transformation. Ritual guides the mourner slowly back into life while carrying memory forward. These traditions reveal a deep truth. Sadness is not a private flaw, but a universal human passage, one so important that cultures across the world have shaped pathways for it. Neuroscience of sadness. Biologically, sadness activates many systems. The anterior insula and anterior cingulate cortex become active when we feel social pain, rejection, loss, loneliness. Research even shows that the brain processes emotional pain similarly to physical pain. Neurotransmitters play their role too. Serotonin and dopamine regulate mood, and dips contribute to prolonged sadness. The hypothalamus regulates crying, appetite, and sleep changes associated with grief. The prefrontal cortex ruminates, sometimes too much, replaying sad thoughts in endless cycles. This overlap of brain regions explains why sadness can feel so physical. Heavy limbs, fatigue, tears. But neuroscience also shows that sadness helps encode meaningful memories. Times of loss or sorrow are deeply etched into our minds, shaping who we become. The emotional brain. Sadness shares pathways with physical pain. One of the most fascinating discoveries in neuroscience is that the brain processes social pain, like rejection, grief, loneliness, using many of the same neural pathways as physical pain. Studies using brain imaging show that when people recall an emotionally painful memory, a breakup, exclusion, loss, regions like the anterior cingulate cortex, ACC, and the insular cortex light up, the same areas that activate when we burn our hand or stub a toe. This means sadness is not imaginary. It is embodied. This is why heartbreak can feel literally painful, why grief aches deep in the body. The brain treats loss as injury. The anterior cingulate cortex, ACC, the bridge of pain. The ACC plays a key role in sadness. It monitors conflict and signals distress when something we value is taken away. Imagine the ACC as a central node. When we are socially hurt, when we feel rejected or isolated, the ACC lights up intensely. It explains why sadness is often accompanied by rumination, the endless replaying of what went wrong, what was lost. Without the ACC, sadness would not grip our thoughts so persistently. With it, sadness ensures we don't ignore what matters most. The insula, dwelling in the body. The insula, buried beneath the cerebral cortex, is responsible for interoception, awareness of internal bodily states. When sadness floods us, the insula helps us notice our pounding heart, the hollow stomach, the tears welling in our eyes. It transforms physiological signals into conscious feelings. That sinking sensation in your gut when you hear bad news, that hollow in your chest during grief, that's the insula translating your body into emotion. Neurotransmitters and hormones of sadness. Our emotions are also mediated by chemicals moving through the brain and bloodstream. Serotonin. Changes in serotonin levels influence mood regulation. Low serotonin is often linked to prolonged sadness and depression. Dopamine. Associated with reward and motivation, dopamine levels often decrease during sadness, which is why nothing feels pleasurable. Oxytocin. Paradoxically, sadness and tears can stimulate oxytocin release, which invites social comfort and bonding, explaining why crying in the presence of someone we trust can bring relief. Cortisol. Stress hormones rise during prolonged sadness or grief, especially if combined with loneliness, wearing down the body. So sadness is chemical as well as psychological, a shift in our inner biochemistry that explains why sadness affects sleep, appetite, and energy. The hippocampus, memory and mourning. The hippocampus, crucial for memory, is deeply involved in sadness. When we grieve, the hippocampus reactivates memories of what we lost. The sound of a loved one, the smell of a room, the details of a moment we can't relive. This constant replaying is bittersweet. Painful, yes, but it also preserves bonds and meaning. Neuroscientists believe this persistent activation is the reason grief sometimes feels like living in the past. We are neurologically re-engaging with memory circuits too vividly. Over time, with processing and healing, hippocampal activity adapts. The memory remains, but the emotional sting lessens. This is the biology of time heals. The prefrontal cortex, ruminating, regulating. The prefrontal cortex, PFC, our thinking brain, is also entangled with sadness. It has two roles. One, rumination. In sadness, the PFC can trap us in analysis loops. Why did this happen? What could I have done differently? This explains why sadness lingers in thought long after the moment has passed. 2, regulation. Yet the PFC can also soothe sadness with reframing, perspective-taking, and mindfulness. For instance, telling ourselves this pain will soften with time, or my sadness shows how much I cared. These cognitive frames calm the emotional brain. So the prefrontal cortex can be an enemy, locking us in overthinking, or an ally, guiding us toward healing insight. Tears, the biology of release. One of sadness's most recognizable expressions is crying. Tears are more than water, they are neurochemical. Emotional tears contain stress hormones like cortisol and prolactin. By crying, the body literally sheds some of these chemicals. And tears invite connection. The sight of tears activates empathy circuits in the brains of others. When we cry in front of someone we trust, their own oxytocin levels may rise, creating closeness. Crying, then, is not weakness. It is a biological mechanism for regulation and for inviting human support. Chronic sadness and depression, the brain under strain. Sadness in itself is not illness. It is natural, but when prolonged, it can strain the brain. Hippocampal shrinkage has been observed in chronic depression, related to high cortisol levels. Amygdala hyperactivity keeps emotional pain alive long after the loss. Prefrontal cortex weakening reduces our ability to regulate. This is why sadness, when it lingers relentlessly and colors every aspect of life, becomes depression, a condition needing compassion and care. It is the brain's pain circuits stuck on repeat, chemically and structurally entrenched. The healing brain, neuroplasticity in sadness. But here is the hopeful part. The brain is plastic, it changes. Healing from sadness is not erasing pain but reshaping neural patterns. Practices like mindfulness, therapy, journaling, and social support calm the amygdala, lower cortisol, boost serotonin, re-engage the prefrontal cortex. Each compassionate act toward ourselves, each breath, each gentle acceptance, rewires brain circuits. New pathways of resilience grow. Even grief, though it never fully vanishes, becomes more bearable because the brain adapts, finding new ways to carry the loss. When sadness turns into depression, though sadness is natural, when it lingers too long or becomes overwhelming, it may transform into clinical depression. The distinction is important. Sadness comes and goes, often tied to specific events. Depression is chronic, persistent, and colors every part of life. Depression brings numbness, loss of motivation, even distortions in thinking. It is not a normal stage of sadness, but a medical condition requiring care and support. In this episode, we speak mainly of ordinary sadness, but it is always important to recognize when sadness deepens into something more serious and to seek help. the wisdom within sadness. So what does sadness teach us? Impermanence. Life changes. Sadness reminds us that nothing lasts forever, and in that realization, we cherish more deeply what we still have. Empathy. When we have known sadness, we soften toward others, recognizing pain in their eyes. Clarity. Sadness strips away superficialities. In the quiet of sadness, our deepest values often emerge. Healing. By allowing sadness to move through us, rather than repressing it, we give ourselves permission to grieve and to let go. Practices for living with sadness. 1. Acknowledgement. Say softly, "I am sad and that's human." 2. Journaling. Write not to analyze but to allow sadness a voice. 3. Tears. If they come, let them. Crying is not weakness, it is release. 4. Rituals. Light a candle, play a song, create space to honor what has been lost. 5. Connection. Share sadness with a trusted friend. Vulnerability invites closeness. Guided reflection. Now let's try a gentle practice. Close your eyes if you can. Take in a slow breath and release it softly. Bring to mind a moment of sadness in your life. Not the heaviest, just one memory that feels safe to hold right now. Visualize yourself sitting beside that sadness, not pushing it away, not drowning in it. Simply sitting with it, like sitting beside a friend who is crying. Whisper even internally, "I hear you. You are welcome here. You have something to teach me." Allow silence, allow breath, allow tears if they arise. And when ready, imagine wrapping that sadness in a soft blanket and placing it gently in your heart, not as a burden, but as a part of your humanity. Sadness is not failure, it is not weakness. Let's do a guided meditation. This is a safe moment just for you. A time to rest, to breathe, and to allow sadness to be held with compassion rather than resistance. If you are sitting, find a posture that feels steady yet gentle. If you are lying down, let your body sink into the surface beneath you. Wherever you are, allow yourself to soften. Soft voice, soft breath, soft presence. Close your eyes if that feels comfortable. Take a slow, deep inhale through your nose. Hold it gently for a moment. And exhale slowly through your mouth, like a long sigh of relief. Do this again. Inhale, hold, and release softly. With every breath, imagine tension leaving your body. Shoulders sinking, jaw unclenching, stomach softening. Your only task right now is to be here. Now gently, bring to mind the feeling of sadness that you carry. Do not push it away, do not fear it. Imagine sadness as a visitor who has arrived at your door. The visitor knocks softly. Instead of slamming the door, allow yourself to open it. Whisper inside, "Hello, sadness, I see you. I will sit with you for a while." Notice where you feel this visitor in your body. Is it a heaviness in the chest? A lump in the throat? A weight in the eyes? Simply observe without judgment. Sadness is not here to harm you. It is here to speak. Now place one hand on your chest and one on your stomach. Feel the rise and fall of your breath beneath your hands. As you inhale, repeat silently, "I allow myself to feel." As you exhale, repeat silently, "I allow myself to release." Feel this rhythm. Breath in, permission to feel. Breath out, permission to let go. Your sadness begins to soften, not because it disappears, but because it is being seen, honored, cradled by awareness. Imagine now that you are sitting by a gentle river. The water moves slowly, peacefully. Every time a wave of sadness arises, picture placing it into the river. A thought, a memory, a heaviness. Place it gently onto a leaf and let the current carry it downstream, away from you, without force, without rush. Your sadness flows just like water. It enters, it moves, it leaves. It was never meant to stay forever. Now bring your awareness back to your chest. Feel your heartbeat. That soft, steady rhythm that has carried you through every moment of your life. Place your hand gently over your heart and say to yourself, "It's okay to feel this way. Sadness is a part of being human. I am not broken, I am healing." Notice how compassion feels in the body. Notice how your breath grows easier when you speak kindly to yourself. Imagine you are not the only one sitting by this river. All over the world, countless people are sitting with their own sadness, grief, disappointment, longing. You are not isolated. You are part of humanity. Sadness connects us. It softens us toward one another. Take a breath for yourself, and then take a breath for them, for everyone carrying sadness right now. With each inhale, draw compassion in. With each exhale, send compassion out. Like a gentle flow, you and the world are breathing together. Now slowly, begin to bring your attention back to your body. Wiggle your fingers a little, roll your shoulders gently. Feel the ground beneath you, strong and steady. Take one last slow inhale, and exhale with a sigh, letting go of any remaining tension. When you are ready, slowly open your eyes. Remember this, sadness is not your enemy. It is a messenger, a teacher, a reminder of love and meaning. When you allow yourself to sit with sadness gently, it transforms. It becomes softer, lighter, easier to carry. May you feel lighter now than when you began. May you continue to carry yourself with kindness and patience. And may you remember, you are never alone in your sorrow. This was Soft Voice Psychology. Thank you for sharing this quiet practice with me.